The next step we're going to learn is using proportional reasoning here to solve for something that we don't know. So a proportion means to keep things consistent and balanced when you're comparing size. So an example here is if I have like this circle here, when I expand it, it kind of keeps that same distance even though it's bigger. Where you can see this one here, all of a sudden, right, that didn't grow, that middle circle didn't grow with it. That's much larger than that one was there. So this is proportionate, this is not proportionate. So as we're keeping things proportionate, we want to keep those same ratios. So if it had 1 here, now it has 2, now it has 3, the other one's growing at that same rate. So we need to remember that fractions are just division problems. If I have 2/5, that really means 2 divided by 5. That is really 2 divided by 5. And we need to know the opposite of divide is multiply. So we've used that multiplicative inverse. We're going to do the same thing in a different way here. So you don't need to write that word for word, but you do need the main ideas, right? Fractions are division. Here's an example. Opposite of divide is multiply. So we're going to do an example, and we're going to practice setting up a proportion. So if it takes Kendra 27 minutes to run 3 miles, at that same rate, how long will it take her to run 7.5 miles? So in the past, right, we've been using our tables, and we've chunked it up like that. We're going to go away from the lines, but it's the same idea. We're using the table, it just doesn't have the boxes around it. So first we have to have labels. We have to know what are we comparing. So she ran 27 minutes and that took 3 miles. So we have to have our labels, and I can't just put M and M or I won't know which is which. So we're going to start with minutes, right? I can abbreviate, but I've got to know that that's my minutes. So I'm going to put minutes on top, and I'm going to put miles on the bottom. Now, when we set up a proportion, I have to have my labels to start. And then I'm going to make a fraction line. We're going to put an equal sign. And we're going to put another fraction. This is our proportion setup every single time. We have a fraction equals a fraction. This fraction is equivalent to this one. We're keeping that same balanced proportion. So now we're going to fill in what we know. So we know she ran 27 minutes. Okay, minutes is on the top. So I'm putting 27 minutes, right? I don't want to put that on the bottom because those are miles. 27 is a minute. So we're just connecting what we know, getting them in the right spot. So now we have 3 miles. Miles is on the bottom. So in 27 minutes, she ran 3 miles. These are connected together. They're the same ratio. Now at that same rate, so we're going to make a new proportion here. How long will it take her to run 7.5 miles? So we have miles on the bottom. So I'm putting 7.5 on the bottom here, because those were miles. So she went 3, now she wants to go 7.5. We're trying to find this number up here. We're trying to find these minutes. We don't know those. We do not know those yet. So every time, this is going to be our proportion setup. So make sure you have that written down. And now, oh, we're not done. We're going to finish this one. Sorry. Okay. We want to find these minutes alone. We want to get this alone here. Normally we would divide this by 7.5, but we don't know the minutes. So we're going to take 7.5 and move it to the other side, but the opposite of divide is multiply. So go ahead and circle these ones that are across from each other, that are crisscross here. All right, we're not going this way because we don't know this one. We don't know the minutes. We're doing the 2 numbers that we know. And we're going to rewrite our problem. You can write it down below if you need to. Our new problem is 27 times 7.5. So we did the opposite of dividing by 7.5. We moved it over here. And we're going to multiply. So when we move it, we have to do the opposite. And then we'll divide it by 3. So in your box here, we're going to do 27 times 7.5. So 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 2 is 10, 11, 12, 13. Done with that 3 placeholder. 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times 2 is 14 plus 4 is 18. And then we're adding those up to find the sum. So we have 5, 12, 10, and 2. But we have one decimal place. So we really have 202.5. But it did not take her 202 minutes. So, right, she was pretty quick here with 3 miles. So we want to keep that same balanced proportion. So we did the top part. Now we have to divide that by 3. So we're taking 202 and a half and cutting it into 3 groups. So I need something above the 2, the 0, the 2. Here's my decimal, and something above the 5. So 3 can't go into 20, into 2, but it can go into 20 3 times, which is 18. 2 left over. Bring down the 2. 3 goes into 22 7 times, which is 21. 1 left over. Bring down the 5. 3 goes into 15 5 times. So it took her 37.5 minutes to run 7.5 miles. Now, if I think about this, it should be balanced. So she went 3 miles. Now she went longer. So my answer from 27 should get bigger. It should take her more time than 27 minutes. So if all of a sudden you're coming up with an answer of 3 or something, if you have your decimal in the wrong spot, that's not going to make sense, right? It should take her longer to run farther. So it should be balanced there. So 37.5, that makes sense. That's longer than it took her here. So that is how we set up these proportions. Our labels, what do we know? What are we looking for? Rewrite the problem, so find the ones that are across and multiply, and then divide by the other number there. Okay, we're going to try one more. If you need to do this in your future self box, that is totally fine. So we have a 5-pound bag of flour costs $2.68. What is the price of 12 pounds? So we have that proportional reasoning because it gave us 3 and it wants to know that 4th one. So we have pound bags of flour and how much they cost. So I'm going to put P for pounds and a $sign for money. Those are my 2 labels, right? I could put F for flour, P for pound, B for bag. I could put C for cost. I could put dollars. I could put money. The label itself isn't important, but you have to have the label. So now we're setting up our fraction equals the fraction. So we have 5 pounds, so 5 pounds, and that costs $2.68. So that's what we know. Now, what are we looking for? The price of 12 pounds. So pounds we have on the top this time, so 12 pounds. So we're looking for how much that costs. We don't know that number. So we're looking for the crisscross numbers, and we're going to circle those. And that's right. So normally we would have divided, but we've got to move it to the other side, which means we're multiplying. So we have $2.68, and we're going to multiply that by 12. And then we'll divide by the other number, which is 5. So you just find your crisscross, multiply those, divide by the 3rd number. So we have $2.68. You can do this out on the side, down at the bottom, wherever you have room to do your math at. So 8 times 2 is 16. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Placeholder, done with those ones. 1 times all of these is going to be themselves. So 8, 6, and 2. So now we're adding these up. So we have 6, 3, and 8 is 11. 5 and 1 is 6, plus 6 is 12. And 2 and 1 make 3. And this time we have 2 decimal places. So 32.16. But it's not $32. That's not our final answer. 12 pounds do not cost 32. That's not proportionate, right? 5 and 2 were pretty close together. So these ones should be a little bit similar as well. Like these shouldn't all of a sudden grow by 32. Like that's just a really big jump there. So we're taking $32.16, and now we're cutting it into 5 groups. So I need something above the 3, the 2, there's my decimal, the 1, and the 6. So 5 can't go into 3, but it goes into 32 6 times. So now 6 times 5 is 30. 2 left over, bring down the 1. 5 goes into 21 4 times, which is 20. 1 left over, bring down the 6. 5 times 6, or 5 goes into 16 3 times, which is 15. 1 left over, we're going to bring down a new 0. 5 goes into 10 2 times. So when she goes and buys 5 pounds or 12 pounds of flour, that will cost her $6.43. Right? 5 and 2.5-ish, that's right. That's about half of it. So this should be about 6, right? $6.43. This was half. This should be half. We went from 5 to 12, 2 to 6. So everything's going in that proportional direction. So crisscross the ones we know, divide by the other one. Okay, if you have any room left, go ahead and write yourself a note of what you want to remember. It could be, right, like crisscross the ones we know, divide by the other. Would be a great thing to write down there.